So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has completed his remarks at the AI Action Summit in Paris. This is, of course, the summit that he's co chairing with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. We've also seen speeches, quite significant ones, by the President of France as well as by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, on his first big diplomatic outing. But joining me now to decode what exactly the Prime Minister said in his remarks, why that's important, and how that features into the general conversation on artificial intelligence globally is Vidushi Marda, who is, of course, Director of Partnerships at AI Collaborative. Vidushi, thank you so much for joining us. Could you just begin by giving us a sense of what you thought were the big takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech on artificial intelligence?
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think one of the main things that stood out from the Prime Minister's speech is a focus on communities and a focus on ensuring that AI systems work for everyone. 60 years after AI was started as a field of computer science. We're at a moment where AI progress has been felt disproportionately only by a few people, and the risks have been borne by a majority of the world. And it's time to sort of reshape the future to ensure that it works for everyone. And I think the focus on communities, on openness, and on ensuring that the current biases of AI systems don't go on unchecked is probably the most important takeaway from the speech today.
Right. We also had the Prime Minister saying things about artificial intelligence for the global south, for powering sustainable development, agriculture, really calling for open source systems. Could you explain some of that debate as well about what the Prime Minister was pitching for when he was talking about making AI more open for countries from the global south and developing countries?
Sure. So one of the main deliverables that's coming out of the Paris AI Action Summit is what is formally being announced as Current AI, which is a global partnership made up of governments, industry, civil society, and the technical community to ensure that AI works for everyone. And there, the focus has been on ensuring that high quality data sets in the realms of health and science are made available to everyone to be used in order to champion the public interest. The focus has been on openness to ensure that the best technologies when it comes to AI safety and online safety tools is made available to everyone and not just a few labs that can afford to build these systems. And also accountability, which is, it's such a mature field made up of brilliant people working on not just technical, but also social aspects of AI accountability. And it's time to sort of bring them all together under a big umbrella so that they can be greater than the sum of their parts.
Right.
And current AI, which is one of the main deliverables, achieves this vision. So I think it was very in line with what happened here in Paris today.
Understood. Could you tell us a little bit about, Vice President J.D. Vance of the United States also made a speech calling for artificial intelligence to be let loose, as it were, to not be regulated as strongly as it was perhaps in the past. He also said that America wants to maintain its dominance in artificial intelligence. Does that in any way conflict with what the Prime Minister was saying in terms of, Prime Minister Modi was saying, in terms of making sure that things are much more open source, much more accessible to countries around the world?
Possibly. I think we need more details of what Vice President Vance meant when he, said that they want to develop AI in a particular vision. I think that the focus on openness is incredibly important at a moment where we see huge foundation models being used across societies, impacting people, but being clear only to very few people who actually build those systems. And I think the focus on open data sets, ensuring that everyone has access to high quality data to build AI systems that serve their own communities and their own local context is really crucial. As far as letting AI go unchecked, I'm not sure of the exact language that was used, but I think if we use the analogy of a car, when you sit in a car, you ensure that the brakes are really trustworthy and that allows you to go as fast as you want. And I think in a similar vein, AI accountability is actually really key to ensuring that AI progress is not just deliberate and responsible, but also something that we are comfortable with. So that's I think the main takeaway, not just from today, but also yesterday, where we had, over 1,000 people and some of the best minds on AI globally calling for pretty much the same.
Right. If I could ask just one or two final questions, in terms of, could you tell us a little bit about India's positioning and as this is playing out? We just saw a couple of weeks ago the release of DeepSeek from China, and that, of course, created a lot of uncertainty in artificial intelligence markets. A lot of conversation about another US-China tech war on artificial intelligence. The question specifically that we had was on where India features in this global tech race when it comes to artificial intelligence. Is it well positioned, or Prime Minister Modi talked about having AI talent in India, or is it very much that there are companies, for example, like Servam AI, that are working in AI in India? Do you think India is well positioned to take advantage of the AI boom, or do you believe that that much of the action right now is concentrated in places like America and China, and that India needs to move much faster if it wants to take advantage of the rapid development of AI?
We're in a moment where AI is almost always termed and talked about in the framework of a race, right? Will X country keep up with Y country is something that we've been hearing for many years now. And I think what's unique about this particular moment in Paris is that countries and companies have come together to say that we need to put our interest and our focus on ensuring that we have a global partnership to ensure that everyone not just flourishes in this current moment, but is comfortable with how the public interest is being centered in this particular moment. The singular focus of countries is, of course, important in terms of local context and what specific countries need, including India. And each country has its own unique needs when it comes to skilling, compute power, data sets, the kind of models and the kind of domains that they want to see AI progress in. But I think the terminology and the analogy of a race is unhelpful because it's not a zero-sum game. Thriving local communities lead to a thriving global ecosystem, and a thriving global ecosystem can enable and empower local communities to build and use AI in the ways that they see fit.
Understood. In terms of building India's local capabilities and, of course, deploying AI in ways that India will find useful, do you think that this visit of the Prime Minister to this AI summit in Paris, do you think part of his goal, of course, there is also to attract a lot of these companies to perhaps look at investing in India, training Indian talent?
I mean, I'm sure I don't want to speak for the Prime Minister, and I certainly can't, but I would imagine that it's not just about, investing in India, but it's also about empowering India in its local and ground realities to be able to come to the global stage to talk about innovation and needs of the current hour and put that on the agenda that has, historically been capitalized by very few countries, and most of those countries are from the global north. They don't include countries from the majority world, and I think this is a moment in which we're trying to ensure that the spotlight shines on everyone regardless of the size of their economy or their country or their population.
Understood. Vidushi Marda of AI Collaborative, thank you so much for your time and for explaining to us Prime Minister Modi's speech at the AI Action Summit in Paris, as well as some of the other issues that we've been talking about when it comes to AI and its development around the world. Thank you again. Can you put me